Overview of participatory project development and management. As earlier discussed, one of our requirements for CD 132 is the online course, Project Management, in Kaya Connect. Here is the roadmap of the online course. The course provides an orientation of the processes in a development project. While the course provides the minimum standards for many stakeholders and donors, it does fall short of the participatory approach we advocate in community development. So let's start reviewing project development and management from a community development perspective. Let's begin. What's the difference between a program and a project? A program can be defined as a collection of interrelated projects and activities working towards one or more strategic aims. It may contain a mixture of components or strategies, such as livelihood, advocacy, etc., and methods. On the other hand, a project is a smaller, separable operational element that is a part of a program. It's usually considered to be a more limited initiative than a program. It can also be defined as a group of interrelated activities that involves the use of one or more scarce resource, planned to take during a defined period of time, with the purpose of achieving defined objectives for a clearly defined intended beneficiaries. It can have a single purpose or well defined ends, or can have complex and multi component systems. While this may seem straightforward, it may be confusing since there are different interpretations on what a project is and what a program is. In the international NGO where I worked for previously, our country office in the Philippines is the program, and all the big programs and projects of our local partners are just projects. Why do we even have to differentiate a project from a program? Take a look at this mind map of an actual project proposal of a local NGO working with the urban poor. It has several strategies ranging from organizing, legal work, media work, research, networking, children education, etc. Each strategy has activities which for some NGOs is already its entire program, such as provision of basic services or policy advocacy on the omnibus housing bill, paralegal development. Is it small, time bound, specific objective, part of a bigger program? Actually, in reality, the work by the NGO is even more diverse and seemingly directionless. A foreign colleague of mine appraised a similar project of the same NGO during the time of Yolanda. She said the proposal was all over the place. Moreover, she said that the proposal doesn't seem to have analyzed the power dynamics in the community. I couldn't help but laugh at her comments. The NGO was one of our most progressive partner because of the participatory nature of their work in community organizing. The NGO activities were scattered all over the place, but all of these initiatives were meant to enhance the positioning of the informal settlers to establish themselves as rightful claimants in their areas. Eventually, the NGO actually became one of our top performers in terms of in the Yolanda response, delivering much needed basic services to the affected population while facilitating transformative structural change and forming local community organizers and leaders in Tacloban. It may be considered as a substandard project proposal, but we have to recognize that a proposal will never be able to capture the full extent and ambition of the work of the proponent, especially community organizing. This remains a challenge for all of us. Our project phase is linear, a clear start date and a clear end date. Each project call is a new initiative and an innovation to answer the problem of the community. How many of your projects really go into a cycle? Or maybe it is a cycle where communities grow incrementally towards empowerment for each project. Or maybe it is iterative, non-linear, trial and error. the way we usually face complex realities. From different perspectives, the pattern of project phases do differ. For donors and evaluators and project proponents, projects are often seen as linear, sometimes one-off initiatives. For NGOs and POs, project proponents, and communities, projects may look cyclical or iterative. Often, projects may not have clear patterns to form a defined program. Many are opportunistic, but instead of just brushing these aside, we can be critical at the same time look at projects as opportunities for growth and empowerment for the community. What we need to do is to be critical of the agenda of different stakeholders. As a CD practitioner, you must be perceptive to see through the lens of the different stakeholders. This will help us in conscientization efforts, scenario building, and facilitating the empowerment processes of the community. But for the class, we will use the basics first. We want to encourage the communities to be able to manage the projects. So let's demystify project management first. However, we have to be ready to learn and adapt with the community as the project is implemented. Here are some project characteristics. One is uniqueness or one-timeness, one cycle. It's time-bound. It has defined start and completion dates. The project must be able to manage the scarce resources. It also involves management of people, leadership, and building relationships. It's also a management of activities. It has clear sequencing of activities and phases. For simplicity purposes, the four key project phases are situational analysis, project design, project implementation, and monitoring and evaluation. Each phase has its own purpose and set of activities. The situational analysis aims to understand the problems, needs, aspirations of the community with a gender lens, assess available resources, local capacities, and responses as basis for the project design, analyze power dynamics, and understand the program to which the project will build on. The project designing phase or planning phase will identify the potential project, choose appropriate strategies for the project, identify risks and mitigating actions for these risks, develop the project proposal, the plan, and the budget, and enhance opportunities for project approval. The project implementation phase ensures the effective and efficient handling, management of all aspects of the project. It also ensures that the project's short-term objectives and longer-term outcomes impacts are achieved. Finally, the monitoring and evaluation phase, or M&E, intends to provide relevant and timely information for making informed decisions, deliberate learning from experience, and communicating these learnings, ensure accountability to community and donors, assess performance against expectations and stated objectives at an agreed point in time, identify key learnings and action points for this and future projects, and plan and organize disengagement and handover. How do we treat projects in community development? Project development and management cannot be viewed separately from the other community development processes, such as community organizing and community education. These processes are not just overlapping, they are all integrated. Each process goes through the same phases of analysis and assessment, planning and implementation, and monitoring and evaluation, with distinct tools and methods to accomplish their specific objectives. Be able to distinguish the nuances of each, but also recognize that all of these contribute to the goal of community development. Before we identify the project, we attempt to look at the big picture in the community first. As mentioned earlier, this process is integrated with community organizing and community education processes. Again, the community planning or programming process is not necessarily linear or circular. This illustration is just to simplify the process for better understanding. We start out with the initial community organizing steps of integration, groundworking, social investigation, and conscientization. The process of building the core group and local leaders lead to the development of a formal or informal organization in the community to institutionalize the processes. To stimulate critical thinking of the community, of their context, participatory action research is conducted. Together, the community identifies problems and issues, the state of the community livelihood assets, the structures and policies that define local governance systems, and future-oriented risks. Power and gender analysis is sometimes externally facilitated so that the community can deeply identify the nature of power relationships and the invisible and hidden power. Gaining access to external analysis feeds into the knowledge of the community. Based on the generated knowledge and community analysis, the community conducts a participatory planning process. Several action points can be agreed on by the community. Strategies can be on ensuring self-organizing processes, capacity development of members of the community, collective action towards natural resource management, social enterprise, disaster risk reduction, health programs, etc. The collective action can also be geared towards campaign and advocacy to influence local governance structures and other stakeholders. Networking and partnering with other communities, other sectors, and stakeholders allow the community to magnify their action and power to influence. After implementing their strategies, the community undertakes participatory monitoring and evaluation to call out lessons from their actions. This process of reflection, action, reflection stimulates learning to further strengthen the community to meet their goals and enhance their solidarity. Projects can come out from any of these activities. Again, this is an oversimplification, and projects are not usually straightforward and easily defined or properly implemented. Take a look at this recent call for an external project evaluator. In particular, if you look at the time frame, you expect CVs to come in on September 22. The consultant is chosen, agrees with the terms, and is briefed on the work the following day, then conducts interviews with a number of stakeholders in the next 2 days, then conducts 4 focus group discussions with the community on the next day, and then to the NGOs on the following day, then drafts the whole report in 2 days. Why is this challenging? What do you think happened to the project? What do you think will be the outcome of the evaluation? My immediate thoughts is that the project was delayed. The proponent failed to negotiate with its donors for an extension, and so they have to submit the report in less than 2 weeks. The evaluation will likely be shallow and will only reflect what activities were conducted and the immediate feedback of the respondents. A template analysis with rhetorical recommendations will probably be provided. Job done. Hopefully I am wrong and the community and the proponent do benefit from this evaluation process. Here's another example. An NGO organized a community living along the steep slopes of a riverside. The plan was to build a gabion wall to prevent erosion and the landslide to keep the community safe and secure. The NGO only had a limited budget, so it leveraged its funds with the barangay local government unit so that they will do the first 50 meters, while the LGU builds the next 200 meters. The NGO and the community built quite an impressive structure that still stands today. On the other hand, the extension of the gabion wall, built by the LGU, collapsed in less than a year after its construction. It was not only overpriced, it was poorly constructed by its contractors. The community noticed that the contractors did not only choose the right size stones, the fence was also not meticulously painted. The fence corroded easily when it rained, causing the gabion wall to collapse. Here we can see the value of community ownership in determining the quality of the work. So why do projects fail? A quick brainstorming and you will see a number of possible weaknesses in each step of the project cycle. Or maybe the reason for the failure is external to the project, such as the norms and standards of different stakeholders. Or maybe the causes in the support services for the community or the proponents of the project. The possible points of failure are infinite. The context, processes, and the future are volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. The problem is not that the project will fail. The real problem is if the project fails to develop relationships and abilities that will contribute to the desired social change. Always focus on your goal to promote well-being and transform power relationships. Even failures are sources of learning and building relationships. Any questions?